Hey guys, welcome to LALoveCreative, and today we're talking about the iPhone 11 Pro Max versus a DSLR camera. If you haven't, make sure you hit the bell so you can stay notified when we post new videos. Now, the iPhone 11 Pro is a phenomenal camera and phone compared to other smartphones on the market, and I think this is a great beginner camera for a lot of people that are thinking about getting in photography and are thinking about upgrading in the future to an actual DSLR. There's a saying when it comes in photography that the best camera is the one that you have with you, and I'm like, duh. Like, yeah, you can't take the picture if you don't have a camera, so use your iPhone, duh. But I don't like that saying, because it's kind of like saying the best food for you is what's in your pocket. The reason why I'm not a big fan of that saying is I would say the best camera is the one that you can actually afford. If you can afford a more expensive DSLR, go for that. If you can only afford an iPhone, then try to create with that. I'm not one of those photographers who's gonna be like, oh man, yeah, just go out there. It's the creative, it's not the gear. And then I shoot with like $10,000 photography cameras, like a lot of these photographers do. I hate that. Now, I recently had a photo shoot where I decided to shoot a couple shots with my iPhone Pro and with my DSLR, in this case, the Sony a7 III. Straight from the get-go, one of the best benefits of shooting with the iPhone is the learning curve. You can just grab it, take some photos. Anybody can pretty much do a decent photo. I don't know, for me, I don't know why, anytime I try to shoot like my girlfriend or something with the iPhone, I take the picture of her and her friends, and then they're like, what is this? Aren't you a photographer? Is there any other photographers out there that just suck with iPhones? I don't know, maybe it's just me. However, there is no learning curve when it comes to the iPhone, and that's one of the biggest benefits. You don't need to know really about aperture or ISO or shutter speed. You can kind of just pick up the phone and take a shot. That is a pro and also a con though. When it comes to the iPhone, you don't have a lot of manual control. So if you really want to upgrade your work, you're going to want to be in control of lighting and settings, and the iPhone is not going to allow you to do that. One of the coolest things though with the iPhone 11 Pro is portrait mode. And one of my favorite things about portrait mode is you can actually edit the amount of blur later in an image. So if you shoot something and you feel like it's a little bit too out of focus in the background, you can change the aperture on your phone. And I think that's an awesome setting, and it makes for portrait mode being an alternative to a DSLR in some situations. Now, the iPhone has something called Smart HDR, which is basically a way of handling highlights and shadows. Now, if you're in a situation where there's harsh highlights and harsh shadows, and you're trying to find a balance between those, if you're shooting with a DSLR, you're going to have to try to figure out a few ways to do that. Maybe exposure compensation on your camera, maybe you're gonna underexpose and then later in post lift up the highlights and shadows. Maybe you will overexpose a little bit and bring down the highlights in post. There's a lot of different things, but the main thing when it comes to a DSLR versus the iPhone is in post. If you're shooting with a DSLR and you're in situations where there's a requirement for more dynamic range, you're gonna have to try to figure out a way to do something in editing when you get home, on Lightroom, on Photoshop. What's great about the iPhone is if you're in a situation where maybe your model or your talent is under in a shadow or is in a situation where there's a balance of different exposures, the iPhone will balance it together and make a decent image. When it comes to dynamic range, you will get a cleaner image with a DSLR, but in a pinch, the iPhone can really save your ass. with the iPhone 11 Pro, you're getting a way better image compared to previous iPhones that have came out. The way the iPhone renders detail from far away, not a big deal. When you zoom in on an image though, there's this choppiness, this blockiness to the skin, and there's this blockiness to the certain details that are in the image. And yes, you can try to correct that in post, but a lot of that's gonna actually make you have to replace skin texture or try to paint over certain things, and it gives the image a not organic feel. Now that's all I have to say about the iPhone 11 Pro Max. I love using this camera. It's not gonna replace my Sony DSLR, but I didn't expect it to. However, I think it's a great beginner camera if you're working on your composition, working on your lighting, and you wanna get into photography. If you have any questions about the iPhone 11 Pro, or if you have any questions about photography or videography, let me know in the comments below, and I will see you next time. See you later.